Okay, thank everybody for being here, and thank Mr. Ludmer for his kind words. Uh, as mentioned before, we're celebrating the 100 years of the discovery of the G. And this is an image of Hans Berger, and we see the original equipment that he used. The, the actual 100 years passed a few days ago now. So, as Alan mentioned, the GBC has grown. Here's the countries that participate. Here we have, so actually it's grown rather rapidly, though we still have a lot of blank spots on the map. Alan mentioned the steering committee. I want to point out Dejong Diao, the fourth on the from left to right on the bottom. He is the main local organizer of the Chengdu conference, together with the GBC. I was a bit surprised at the size of it. It's 250 speakers and additionally 600 participants. And that's going on simultaneously with our online conference. But one thing that for us is also very important is the centenary of the birth of Erwin Roy John and the memorial symposium that will follow my introduction. Looking at everything we've planned, I still feel we fall short to grasp the full breadth of Roy's contribution in many senses. At the International Federation of Clinical Neurophysiology, to be able to characterize Roy, I had to talk about Thomas Kuhn's idea of the cycle of paradigm change, and because Roy was always ahead of his time in many aspects. We can give many examples. But some of his first work was working with in the 50s with radioligands, and this is one of his last articles that came later, which is double metabolic mapping of memory, mapping cells in the cat learning a memory. And this is the prior article. So this is one of the many threads of his work. He also was a pioneer. This paper that I'm showing on the top, and later in humans in the discovery of endogenous evoked potentials. These are all aspects that will be touched upon. I have to mention his famous book, The Mechanisms of Memory, which is a breakthrough at the time. He was also very, very controversial. I remember him getting angry at what he called switchboard theories of the brain, deterministic, no? And he emphasized ensemble properties. And we'll hear also about this. And then, of course, here is the work on neural readout of memory. So these are just different aspects of the work. But he also had an applied aspect. Here we see him doing interoperative monitoring. Now, one of the things that I want to mention is that not only was he is an innovative scientist, he was also a courageous and principled fighter for social justice. He was a metallurgical worker and organized the trade union. He volunteered in World War II. He, in fact, here on the right, Leslie gave me, this is on the way up. This is him going on the right to the Battle of the Bulge. He did his studies with the GI Bill after returning. He always worked with brain scientists in the whole world. And he was never cowed by any form of McCarthyism in any way, which is something that's a lesson for today, in which the world is very divided. And some people are trying to build walls again between scientists from different countries. In this aspect, and here we see Roy with Talia Harman, they played a great role in taking science to developing countries, and in particular, I want to mention the example of Cuba. This is Roy at the thesis of Talia. Here we see a young Talia the first students that were studying neurophysiology. This here on the right, you see a CAT 400C computer, which was donated by Roy to, but a group, he spearheaded a group of scientists from the US who donated this special purpose equipment, and this was the amplifiers we used at the time. He became then involved with two of our friends in the construction of the first Cuban microcomputers, which were done at the same time as Japan. This whole collaboration later led to this work on neurometrics, which will be mentioned later. Here you see Talia. This is me. We're working with the first Cuban computer. This is Metro Valdes, who was working with them. And this was the first computerized EEG system produced industrially for the Cuban health system in the 80s. You can see here a close-up. There are people like Roberto Pascual. This was a great team that was created and under the influence of Roy. I have to say that at the entrance of our new center, there's a portrait of Roy John in Cuba. We're very proud that his tradition has led to things like doing screening of hearing loss in countries like Ecuador, where we've helped screen hundreds of thousands of kids. And this shows that his ideas on neurometrics and the possibility of using computerized EEG to help people is a valid idea. He was always present with us. This is one of the congresses. Here is Fernando Lopez da Silva and Roy at one of our conferences. And the symposium will have distinguished speakers that worked with him. So we will have first Leslie Pritchett talking about subtyping of brain disorders. We will have Yuri Busaki talking about endogenous components. We will have Mitchell, and then we will have, I will speak. Mitchell will talk about event-related potentials. I will talk a bit about the geometric ideas underlying neurometrics. Talia will talk about QEEG assessment in neurological patients. And then Bob Thatcher will be talking about neural coherence in the content of consciousness. We were all closely related to Roy, and it gives us great pleasure to be able to commemorate by talking about science. So thank you, all the speakers that come, and we can go then to the first presentation.